Hello and welcome to the Film Ireland podcast. I'm Gemma Creagh and I'm chatting with Joyride director Emer Reynolds. Hi Emer, thank you so much for chatting with us.
My pleasure, Gemma. Thanks for having me.
First of all, I want to say well done. This was just such a gorgeous film. The performances, the aesthetics, everything about it. It was just so rich and lovely.
Thank you so much.
And a joy to watch. So I was kind of keeping an eye on it when I heard Olivia Colman was on this side of the pond. I was very excited. Anyway,
yeah. Everything she does, I know. Yeah.
I'd watch her in an ad for socks. She's just fabulous and so much happening at any one point. So anyway, before we get into the acting, I just want to say that a project like this, there's so many spitting plates that have to happen for it even to get off the ground. I was just wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the birth of this project. How did it start?
Well, I wasn't there at the birth. Aoife O'Sullivan and Ailbhe Keoghan had been developing this script for a number of years before I came on board. And they had nurtured it through a number of phases, a number of different types of screenplays with different directors, at least one I know of. And I hadn't really found the voice for it or the approach for it. Then Aoife, a wonderful fortuitous call she made to me, fortuitous for me anyway, in 2018 to say, was I looking at dramas as well as documentaries? I said, absolutely I was. I was looking for the right project. So she said, we have a script I'd love to send you. So she sent it over and, I loved it from the minute I read it. I thought there was such an incredible heart to it. It was like open heart surgery. It was so funny. It was so smart. It was so emotional. I just thought it was really beautiful, wonderful dialogue, really, really funny and smart dialogue and incredible characters, particularly the character of Joy, that as played by Olivia Colman. She's a complex and messy woman, a complex and messy mother in a world where often mothers are portrayed as kind of, pastel and floral and very agreeable. She's snarky, she's independent, she's unpredictable, she's hilarious, she's fun and filthy, so there was a huge amount of complexity to it that drew me to the script and ultimately drew Olivia to the part.
It's such an interesting take on things because you have like the young mother learning to cope and learning the skills and understanding of motherhood and all that entails, but like actually as someone who comes to it late in the game and it's quite a surprise, it's a different angle, but it's so truthful because not everyone had the best role models, and that's one of the main themes that I thought was incredibly powerful through it, is that intergenerational trauma.
Yes, yeah. She'd been bequeathed kind of self-loathing and deeply absorbed the idea. And it's a line that's thrown away in the film. It's in the middle of a kind of a Fellini-esque comedic scene where they're traveling on the back of a trailer, and she kind of casually says to Mully, my mother always told me it'd be better for everybody if I never had children, so you've got this woman who's accidentally pregnant and accidentally has had a child, and she has even though she's in her 40s, she has no framework for understanding how to be a mother, how to allow herself to be a mother, how to love, how to not reject the whole idea because of her, as you say, the intergenerational trauma of her own childhood. So yeah, it's that beautiful, deep learning, all about healing that's in the film, and it's told in a way and in a story that is also incredibly uplifting and fun, and a great journey that this pair of fugitives go on together, where they both, like all great buddy road movies, that they learn from each other, they find in each other the learning and the healing they needed.
And that complexity that you mentioned, it's a very surprising turn, I think, in some ways. Like it's set up like this is a road movie, there's going to be a chase, there's going to be these characters at the very, very beginning, and then we're introduced to the backstory of the characters and that kind of rich tapestry that makes up their background. Like, how much of the draft was completed? I know, again, when bringing a director on board, like how much do you need to kind of recraft and things to get those the script singing visually as well?
Yeah, the draft, if I remember correctly from Alva, the draft had gone a lot of different ways over a number of years. You know, different elements had been lifted up. The kind of the crim chase element had been beefed up in certain drafts. You know, so it had gone through a lot of iterations. But when I came on board, we went back to the core of what Alva wanted to explore, which was motherhood and, you know, how we learn to live with ourselves, how we learn to love ourselves. And so we went back to these basic ideas, these really big tentpole scenes of when she first learns to breastfeed and you know, these ideas of connecting, how this young 13-year-old boy, this rapscallion that she kind of accidentally meets, that how he would teach her how to be a mother, how he would allow her to experience that. So when I came on board, we went back to that core, to that real strong heart, to, you know, a female writer, female director, female producer, all incredibly attracted to this idea of telling this story about motherhood, this story about messy and magnificent motherhood, you know, that it wasn't a straight line. It isn't a straight line of love and acceptance and it's all easy, you know, that it can be twisty, and it can be a twisty, strange road, and yet incredibly rewarding. So I'm not sure I've answered your question, but that's really what happened when I came on board, in terms of figuring out the story that we wanted to tell, that the heart of the story, and then drawing out the visual expression of it out of those tentpole moments.
That is the thing that I enjoyed the most of it. Is so often I think it's where you see the cliche of in film and television of, like, you know, the sweaty mother being handed the baby and beaming with joy, but like the reality is, like, you're ripped asunder, like you're completely destroyed, your body is destroyed, your hormones are in bits, and next thing you're given this screaming thing to care for, and you're like, what now? You know,
Alva tells that story about the birth of the idea for the film in her head was she was walking the back roads of Kerry with her 6-week-old baby in bits, thinking, I cannot care for this child, I don't know how to feed him, I'm completely at sea, and heard on the radio a story about a 12-year-old in Tipperary that had stolen a car, and there was a newborn in the back of it, and then instead of like a normal kind of response of, oh my goodness, that boy with a child, that's dangerous, or that's kind of strange, she thought, wouldn't it be wonderful, maybe he could help me learn how to teach this child or feed this baby, you know. So that's really true in terms of, you know, how the thinking process of a young mother or a new mother is, you know. It's very, very scrappy. It's not sitting in a sunlit field of sunflowers totally at ease with the universe.
No, not at all. Not for ages. One of the things as well that I really wanted to chat with you about was just how absolutely rich and beautiful, obviously that's your your DOP background, but like the production design, the bright colors, the even those kind of like standout visual pieces, like the baby's head on the back of the truck that then pops up later. Can you just tell me a little bit about when coming on board the script and reworking it to that draft, when do you start to see those moments, and how do you bring them to fruition?
You know, it's a mixture of just instinct. You know, I really didn't want, you know, in some ways it could read a little bit like social realism, you know, dark story of a mother struggling with her newborn, and a scrappy boy racer picks her up in a stolen car. But actually I never saw it as social realism. I always saw it as something incredibly expressive and vivid and colourful, and like Joy herself, you know, kind of really, really alive and bold, and knew we were going to be outdoors. Like of the 5-week shoot, 4 of them were outdoors. You know, we were living with the elements, we were living with the landscape, we were going to have to absorb everything that Kerry weather was going to throw at us, you know. So there was a very, very clear, I had a very clear idea that to make something that would be kind of vivid, expressive, evocative, like not coy, not coy, and tapping into Joy's esprit, you know, that Joy's madness, her passion, you know, how big she is. And then so it's a journey of that. It's a combination of me feeling that way and then being joined by my key creatives, James Mather, fantastic cinematographer, Joe Fallover, production designer, Kathy Strachan, costume designer. They came in and, you know, they brought their own interpretations to it, and I was really open, and we were all including, in fact, I have to say, Carl King, who was our locations manager in Kerry, who really took the brief to heart that we would, you know, that we would show the landscape, you know, as much difference as we could, from the barren mountains to the lush valleys to the lakes to the estuary, you know, and everything in between. And so we all took to finding this language, finding a language that would allow us to embrace the you know, how would we put these two people and all these various, I mean, we had upwards of, I think, 13 different vehicles for them to travel on, you know, put them into this landscape and have it feel playful and joyous and expressive, not dark and dank, even though the story is, you know, it starts off, as you say, very light and funny and a chase and a road movie, and then it twists and it kind of, it darkens and it deepens into something that's quite an emotional unraveling. And so really just wanted the journey to feel like that, and the visual style to map that.
And it mimics that kind of heightened sensation of when you're of emotions, I suppose, at this time, where these characters are at this pivotal turning point in each of their lives and their own personal journey. So I want to touch with you a little bit on the minutiae of how you achieve this with all those heads of departments. Like, again, there's so many spinning plates on a project like this. How do you get to the crux of finding that language with your various heads of department to go, this is the feel I want to do, this is what I want to do? Do you create a lookbook? Do you work with them on projects, like curating designs? How do you manage it and communicate it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a process of discovery and interplay between their voices and mine, and a kind of a narrowing, a kind of a starting. I started with a lookbook and loads of film references and storyboards and ideas and references for, you know, films that had the same tone, had the same look. We were lots of conversations about how we would approach it. And then it's a kind of a winnowing, you know, it's a kind of a, they come with other ideas. Is it this, not that, you know? James was consistently every 2 or 3 days sending me more photos from other films, trying to narrow the articulation of what the vision was, you know. So it became a kind of a really compelling and playful and, you know, elaborate and entertaining, you know, really, really interesting journey over weeks and weeks and weeks. Soft prep, they call it, which I don't know why they call it soft prep, because it's so intense. Because it's a journey for visual creatives to try to say yes, this, not that, even down to color, you know, down to, you know, when we with Kathy we settled on the you know, Joy's beautiful sunflower colored yellow coat. You know, it was a process of, you know, we started with Faye Dunaway type, you know, look, and then ended up where we ended, and it's just an ongoing journey of really, really interesting dialogue that happens verbally and also happens through photographs, you know, and through movies and sharing. You know, I saw this last night, or, you know, I don't know if that's answered your question, but you know, it's an ongoing, and it's not a straight line. It's a kind of a loopy, squiggly line that everyone heads towards. And at a certain point, maybe around the time we started actual prep, not soft prep, by that stage, you know, I was in a car frequently with Joe, the designer, James, the cinematographer, Carl, the locations manager, JQ, our first AD. And we were out on the road we had over 50 locations to shoot in 5 weeks. And I wanted a very diverse look for all the locations. So then we're in a car and we're just talking and listening to music and, you know, generally just finding it all together. And it's really, really, it's empowering, and it's really eclectic in a nice way. You know, all the references weren't straight lines, which is lovely.
That's fabulous. And I really want to talk to you about cast. So you have a baby, which is
yes,
which is the DT. You have Olivia Colman, and then again, I think there's a great on-screen chemistry between her and that really talented young lad. Can you tell me a little bit about how you found them and how you kind of placed them together?
So Olivia came on board first. We sent her the script and I wrote her a letter, and she loved the script, but she loved the character of Joy, and asked to meet with me, which was over Zoom because we were still in lockdown, or well, not lockdown, the COVID protocols and all that. So we got along wonderfully, and she came on board pretty soon out. Even in that call, in fact, she said she would agree to do it, which was incredibly exciting. And then and the film, the energy and the kind of the film's existence went into overdrive then as soon as Olivia agreed to be part of it. And then we went out looking for Charlie and for Lachlan, who plays James. They're the three leads. Lachlan O'Maron plays Mully's father. And we went out casting, and finding Mully took 4 months. We went on a very broad search for a young new talent, and went out all across Ireland to newspapers and to drama clubs and to GAA clubs and karate clubs, and said, do you have a kid? Schools, is there somebody new? Is there somebody out there who wants to take part? So that poor Elaine Granger, our casting agent, started with 1,500 tapes of young boys who auditioned for the part, and over the next 16 weeks we narrowed that down, over callbacks and repeated tapings with the boys that were still in play. And at the end of all that, Charlie was selected, and he had been a front runner from very early on. He's an incredibly present and brave young actor. His instincts are spot on. His charisma, his screen charisma. So we were so excited to cast him. I feel so privileged to have cast him because he goes toe to toe with Oscar winner actor, and it's a proper two-hander. It's a proper buddy pair.
And what is it like working with someone sort of that caliber as well? But I'm sure you can't go up to and be like, do it like this, Olivia, but better. To kind of finesse those relationships on screen and to capture it. Like, what is it like? And then working with someone so established, and then someone so new to the game, and then a baby.
And a baby. It was really easy because both Olivia and Charlie and Lachlan, and the rest of the cast, there was an incredibly supportive and collegial atmosphere. Olivia doesn't come on set as stays in her trailer and kind of call me when you're ready for me. She wants to be part of a group. She wants to be part of a collective. Filmmaking takes a village to make a film. It's an incredible collective effort, and she wants to be there. And so that kind of set the tone. We all became very good friends. We talked in the week of the read through and so-called rehearsals. We did a huge amount of bonding and getting to know each other, and allowing everyone's voice in the room to be how we were going to make this work. As you say, with all not only an Oscar winner and a young boy and babies, we had stunts, we had paparazzi, we had sea stunts, we had 13 different vehicles across the mountains of Kerry, so it was going to be an incredible challenge. But we all really liked each other and trusted each other and gave each other lots of room. And a journalist asked me the other day, you must have been incredibly intimidated by Oscar winning Olivia Colman.
Because your track record is not like, you have worked with amazing people.
Well, I think he just meant, he was like, was it really intimidating? And I was like, it is now that you've said it like that. It is that does sound terrifying. It didn't feel terrifying at the time. It just felt like we were all together with the same aim, to realize this rich, human, tender, funny, emotional script, that we were all together down in a hotel in Kerry wanting the same thing and all equals, and it was a joy.
And just specifically to do with Kerry, because again, that landscape is so beautiful and striking. What was the link there with Screen Kerry and Kerry County Council? Did they provide some of the fund? I'm very interested in how these things, I think there's such a great chemistry in getting them, and then like sometimes those restrictions of it being in Kerry, it lends itself to the most beautiful creativity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so grateful to Screen Kerry and to all the various partners that made it happen down here. They were incredibly supportive and really, really made it happen. We were desperate to film in Kerry, but, there was a will, or, there was a possibility that we would have to shoot nearer Dublin, shoot Wicklow for Kerry, shoot, the beaches of Wicklow for Kerry. And we really didn't want that. Kerry was in the film's heart and soul and DNA from the start, and to make it happen, it required all those industry funders from Kerry to come on board and facilitate us coming down. I don't know the minutiae of how it works, but there's tax breaks to do with filming in Kerry and all that. And really everybody from my producer Aoife to the production team to Screen Kerry, everyone just pulled together to even though it was going to be a little bit more difficult to be in Kerry, to make it happen, because it's so beautiful, it's so glorious. There's this, untamed wildness and joy to the place that we really wanted on screen. We wanted to be absorbing, the cells of the film, to be suffused with it. So you fought really hard, and I'm so glad we did. And I'm here in Kerry at the moment. In fact, we're having our Kerry premiere tonight, and
there's like just a rich soundscape across the whole film. And I was just wondering if you could just chat to me a little bit about how you got that depth there.
Do you mean the score, or do you mean all aspects of the sound?
Like the whole mix, but the score especially is beautiful.
Yeah, the score, like it's a very it's Ray Harman, formerly of Something Happens, who's my regular composer, wrote an incredible, I think, really cinematic score. It's very original, it's very evocative, it's very Irish with loads of Irish instruments in it, but incredibly modern, emotional and journeying and really lovely. And he had to encapsulate the kind of the pre-existing eclectic music that was in the film. Mully sings Cab Calloway number. They sing on a boat. They sing the theme music from Home and Away. So there was these kind of other elements in there already that were quite disparate. And then I brought in these other, big commercial tracks that would push the plot forward and push the emotional story forward. So, it's a very rich musical experience. I think we saw it in the cinema last night in the Lighthouse at the Irish premiere, and that, along with the beautiful mix that was achieved by location sound and by the sound editors and by the sound mixers, it's incredibly it's a very vivid aural experience, and it's very, very absolutely one to be seen in the cinema, because you get so much depth and complexity and drama from the width as well, the breadth on the mountains, and feeling like that, Kerry doesn't seem to have any horizons, it just seems to go on forever. And, the sound mix just brought this, this life, this width to it that I absolutely love.
And that's it. It's sort of like, again, it's this, I think you'd said this, it's very visceral. And that's that feeling, because you have such rich production design against just such gorgeous visuals. And then almost like, I know you had mentioned this as well, but I just thought her wardrobe was so striking and almost harks back to this classic era of fashion, beautiful, clean lines, and says so much about her as a person, as well as someone who's so sort of established in her career, but then this other area has kind of left to follow. So like there's beautiful meaning there, and it's so lovely and layered. And I do think that the soundscape really immerses you in that.
I think, I think all of the crafts on show in the film, including sound design, including the editing, cinematography, costume, I think all the crafts have incredibly authored voice, like there's real discrete ideas at play in all. And, I had an incredible team of HODs that contributed so much, and to whom I'm so grateful.
I just wanted to chat really quickly about, because the themes are so I think they're so rich, and they will have spoken on a real personal level to a lot of people maybe that weren't represented before, women going into motherhood unprepared, or like, you know, it's there's a cliche around it, and I think this does something very, very, very different. I'm just wondering, I know it's seen its festival run. I'm just wondering, have you gotten any feedback from anybody about it, or you know, how it has touched them, or I suppose the release will see that a bit more. But yeah, no, I'm just curious to what the response has been.
Yeah, I mean, unknown at the moment, in the sense of, you know, we're literally about to hit the cinemas, and we haven't been to festivals apart from opening Galway a few weeks ago. We were basically, the model for this film was to go straight to the cinema. So I've only currently got you know, emails and Twitter and text message as I've got from the various screenings to go on, but it's been incredibly powerful. And, you know, people find it a really joyous and emotional journey, you know, laughing and crying in a cinema with other people, you know, that gorgeous journey of highs and lows. And yeah, we've been overwhelmed with the positive response so far. So please goodness that carries through, and it connects, you know, it connects with people once it's on release on Friday.
It's fabulous. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us. We were so grateful, and definitely one to see, a visual spectacle as well. Like, I think it has to be seen in the big screen.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thanks, Gemma, for taking the time to talk.